Hello friends, today I take up a new topic and the name of the topic is Unity in Diversity in India. Threats and challenges. What are the ways out? So I shall cover this topic under these points. My lesson plan includes why is it in the news, definition of unity in diversity, threats of unity in diversity in India, what are the ways out, importance of unity in diversity, and finally conclusion. So let us start the proceedings. If you like my channel AGIS Academy Indore, please share and subscribe. This is free channel. Why is it in the news? Friends, as you know that on Sunday, Prime Minister of India praised the diversity, languages and script in the country. The PM said that our country was a rich treasure house of many languages, scripts and dialects. As a nation, this diversity strengthens us and keeps us united. The Prime Minister said on Sunday, on 29th May 2022 in his Man Ki Baat, definition of unity in diversity, an expression of harmony and unity between dissimilar individuals and groups. It is a concept of unity without uniformity and diversity without fragmentation. It is opposite to the concept of assimilation, where all ideologies are merged into one. Friends, you know that in Islamic countries, the policy of assimilation was adopted. The other religious people were either converted or were made as second citizens. They were called Jimmis, and jizya tax was imposed upon them for their protection by the Islamic State. So in Islamic country, we find the policy of assimilation. There is no room for diversity. While unity in diversity means, in spite of the differences in our language, in our culture, in our script, in our physical features, there are certain threads of unity running through the veins of each and every Indian. It is based upon the idea that differences enriches human interactions. Threads of unity in diversity in India. What are the threats and challenges before us? Number one, India is the home of multitudes of religions like Hinduism, Sikhism, Jainism, Buddhism, Christianity, Islam and Zoroastrianism. India is the home of different races like the Negrito, Proto-Australoids, Mongoloids, Mediterranean or Dravidian, the Western Brachycephals and Nordics. Most of the people of southern states are Dravidians, while in northern India, most of the people are Aryans, Nordic, while most of the tribes come from Proto-Australoids. Northeastern states have large number of Mongoloids races. So you see that India is the confluence of different races. Hundreds of dialects are spoken in our country. According to 8th schedule of our constitution, 22 languages have been recognized. There are so many scripts being used by our people. Caste in Hindu society has been a divisive factor, and more than 1200 castes are in vogue in our country. And these castes are the stumbling block to national integration. There are huge regional disparities among states of India. While some states have become advanced, other states are lagging behind. States like Bihar, Odisha, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, Eastern UP, these states are lagging behind in terms of per capita income. The process of development has not taken the pace. While the southern states like Maharashtra, Goa, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, these states have very much advanced after independence. The per capita of Bihar is around 50,555 rupees in 2021-22 against the national per capita of 1,50,000 rupees. But for Maharashtra, it is more than 3 lakh rupees per capita income, and Goa has the highest per capita income of more than 4 lakh rupees. So you see regional disparities among different states of India. Trouble in Kashmir, the ongoing violence in Jammu and Kashmir for the last 30 years is an important irritant or a sore to the body politic of our country. And this state of affairs has been the handiwork of the Pakistani exported terrorist. So Jammu and Kashmir has been under boil for the last 30 years because of the adversarial policy of Pakistan. And that's why Government of India abolished Article 370, whereby the special status of the state of Jammu Kashmir was abrogated. On the other hand, even the statehood of Jammu and Kashmir was taken away. Instead, Jammu and Kashmir was reduced to the rank of union territories, and Ladakh was also made another union territory. The Naxal menace in Chhattisgarh, Maharashtra, Jharkhand is another problem that is a threat to our national integration. Resurgence of militancy by pro-Khalistani group in Punjab and the revival of the Babbar Khalsa outfit in Assam, the United Liberation Front of Assam Independent, Alpha I, and Nagaland. In Nagaland, National Socialist Council of Nagaland have recently initiated for their revival. These outfits are operating from the soil of Myanmar. So we must be very much cautious about the operation of these ultra-terrorist outfits. Similarly, revival of Liberation Tiger of Tamil Elam in Tamil Nadu on account of economic crisis in Sri Lanka is another problem that India will have to face in future. Fragmentation of Indian society because of the present electoral politics. And now you see that in our general election, people are voting on religious lines, and this is a very serious matter, a matter of concern to all of us, where the society has become now polarized on the basis of community, on the basis of religion. And so it is a great setback to our secular fabric. The tension between center and state governments thereby straining federal structure of our constitution. And we have seen the governor of West Bengal and chief ministers have a strained relationship. Similarly is the case with Tamil Nadu chief minister and governor. Then there is regional disparities that I have already discussed about it, and politicization of religious differences. And this politicization of religious differences have now gone to such pass that religious groups have aligned with particular parties. For example, 2002 general election of UP, what you find? Muslims voted Samajwadi Party in mass. Similarly, forward caste voted in mass to BJP. BSP and Congress were reduced to a marginal group. Politicization of caste differences. In our country, people vote their caste, not their parties. And so every political party choose their candidate on the basis of the population of caste obtaining in the particular constituency, and this is a matter of grave concern to all of us. This is the pie chart of the caste composition of Uttar Pradesh. Friends, as you see that the population of OBC are 39%, general caste 25%, Muslims 16%, and scheduled caste and scheduled tribes 20%. The general pattern of voting in the general election of 2022 UP election was that general caste voted for BJP, while Muslims voted for Samajwadi Party. Even among OBCs, Yadav caste voted for Samajwadi Party, while non-Yadavs among OBCs voted for BJP. And that's why BJP got thumping majority in UP consecutively. Poverty, illiteracy, malnutrition, large-scale dropouts of children belonging to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. Friends, as you know that after 75 years of independence, 23% of our population are below poverty line. This means that a person who is not earning more than $1 per day. Similarly, illiteracy haunts our society, and we have to do more and more improvement in the field of literacy. Similarly, half of the women population are suffering from malnutrition. Large scale dropouts of children belonging to scheduled tribes and scheduled caste is another grave problem for us, because it has been found that half of the enrolled children belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe leave their school at primary stage. Now, question is, what are the ways out? How can we solve the problem? How can we combat the threats posed to our unity in diversity? These are: need to strengthen the idea of India, to inculcate among people the civilizational unity of India irrespective of the primordial loyalty like religion, caste, region, community, sex, color, creed and place of residence. India is first and the rest are secondary. Friends, as you know that in its long history of 5,000 years, Indian civilization has been a continuous one. While the civilization of Rome, Greece, Egypt, Babylon all perished, but our civilization continued. Except China, there is no parallel in the civilizational history of the world. And so in India, what you see that there is a civilizational unity from Kanyakumari in south to Kashmir in the north, irrespective of the primordial loyalties like caste, creed, color, religion. Every person inhabiting India is Indian first, and the rest are secondary issues. Strict action against those who perpetuate casteism and communalism in society in general and in election in particular. The use of statecraft as a long-term policy solution to security concern is a must. Statecraft involves knowing inherent problems and inability to quickly respond to the political challenges. This means that all problems like Naxalism or terrorism or other issues cannot be tackled by the use of security forces. The security forces and the policy implementation should be coterminous. In short, statecraft entails a shift from reposing all faiths in the security establishment to putting equal emphasis on policies and programs initiated by central and state governments. It is incumbent upon us to address the imbalance regional growth since independence, and I have already narrated as to how a state like Bihar, Odisha, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand are lagging behind. There is need to strengthen federal setup in our country. Friends, as you know that according to Article 1 of our Constitution, India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of state. This means that India is made up of different units, but the units have no rights to secede from the union. And another point is that union is not the result of the agreement among the units, as we have found in the US Constitution. And so, while our Constitution has federal structure and it has got unitary spirit, there is now need to strengthen the federal structure of our Constitution, whereby financial powers of a state should be more strengthened. Effective measures should be adopted to control the population of states of northern states, reducing to the level of 2.1 TFR, total fertility rate, which is a target of the government of India. While the southern states have achieved the target of TFR 2.1, northern states like UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, MP, Rajasthan will have to work to control the population growth, to achieve higher growth of the economy. Friends, as you know that China alleviated poverty. Why? Because of its higher growth of economy for last 30 years from 1980 to 2010. And this made China the second largest economy of the world after USA. Chinese economy is now 5 times larger than that of India in terms of nominal GDP. In terms of PPP, Chinese economy is 2.5 times larger than that of India. In its long history, since 1949, when the communist government took over in China, around 80 crore people were lifted from the poverty line in China. Similarly, in our country, around 30 crore people were lifted from the poverty line. But friends, as you know that still 23% of our population are below poverty line. This means that they are earning not more than $1 per day. So we'll have to increase our growth. And it is heartening to note that in 2021-22, the growth in our economy was around 8.5 to 8.7, more than that of the developed countries of the world, even more than China. And so we'll have to continue the tempo of the higher growth in our economy so that a spillover effect may have on the grassroots level. There is urgent need to start poverty alleviation program on large scale to fight out illiteracy and malnutrition. And I have already told you that half of our women are suffering from malnutrition. We will have to take certain steps to improve their physical health, to strengthen the socialist and secular principles of our constitution. There cannot be socialism of poverty. Socialism means the reduction of gap between the rich and the poor, and secondly, all people must get bare necessities of life. Secularism means that a state will have no religion of its own, and in our constitution under Article 25, 26, 27 and 28, the secular principles has been enshrined in our constitution. Similarly, for minorities, Article 29 and 30 have been provided, whereby they can conserve their language, script and culture. They can open educational institutions of their choice. Importance of unity in diversity. What are the importance? Why unity in diversity is important for our country? It is essential to maintain peace, harmony, prosperity in our country. For the development and growth of our economy, it is essential to have unity in diversity. It gives global recognition and respect in international affairs. It also paves the way for peaceful coexistence, whereby our country can have cordial relationship with the other countries which have differing political, social and economic conditions. Conclusion. What conclusion we derive from this lecture? Number one, unity in diversity instructs us that although we are from diverse caste, creed, color, race, these variations cannot keep us apart. It gives a feeling of oneness, transcending barriers of primordial loyalties. It expands collaboration, interaction between people, productivity and lifestyle, enables communication between different social groups. Unity in diversity is must for sustaining the idea of India, for the protection of sovereignty and integrity. Friends, if you like my channel, please share and subscribe. This is free channel. Thank you very much.